Hi boys and girls, it's Miss G and I am here to talk to you about safety in the makerspace. So these are some of the tools that you might be using in the makerspace. They're not all of the tools or all of the safety instructions, so you'll still need to check in with your teacher when you're using something in class. The first tool that we'll talk about is the hammer. Now with any tool that you use, you need to be aware of the blood bubble. The blood bubble is the area around your materials that could cause you to get hurt and maybe even bleed. So a blood bubble is an area that you need to be extra careful in, and you need to make sure that your body parts or anybody else's body parts stay out of the blood bubble. When you're using a hammer, the blood bubble would be in front of the hammer at the hammer head, but also at the back of the hammer. You need to make sure that you are keeping this area in front of you clear, but also the area behind. So you don't want to bring it towards your face, so you'll be looking at it from the side. When you're using a nail with the hammer, that becomes part of the blood bubble because this does have a sharp area, but also it could go flying, so you need to be very careful. When you're starting to use a hammer and nail, hold the nail carefully with your 2 fingers, hold your hand high up on the shaft of the hammer, and gently start tapping it in. When the nail is insecure, when it's in nice and secure, you can move your hands down the shaft of the hammer and then get a little bit more force. The next tool that we'll talk about is the vise and the saw. You usually would use these two together because they're 2 tools that help each other out. When you're using the vise, you would unclamp it like this by rotating the bottom. And then you would stick your piece of wood, whatever you're planning on cutting, onto the edge of the table and use your vise grip or vise clamp to attach it on. So I would tighten this back up so that my vise holds this piece of wood nice and steady. I would also not do this sitting down, I would do this standing up. When we are using the saw, the blood bubble for this saw is anywhere where there's a blade. Now this blade only has teeth on the bottom, but there are some saws that we have in the makerspace that have blades on both sides, so be aware of that. When you are cutting, let me move over and show you. You need to make sure that your hand stays out of the blood bubble. So I would hold it here, and then I would hold my hand here. And then you want to cut it first. Let's go on. When you are cutting, you make sure that your clamp is nice and tight and your block of wood isn't rotating anywhere. It's not going to wobble. You can tighten this up if you need to. And again, make sure your hand stays out of that blood bubble, your feet, and anybody else's hands and feet stay clear of the area. When you're sawing, you are going to start low on the blade, pull it towards you. Do that a couple times so you make yourself a nice dent, and then once you have a nice dent or a nice cut for your saw to stay in, then you can go ahead and go back and forth. When you're sawing, you do want to have a nice angle so that your saw is downwards and not sideways like this. If you have it sideways like this, you have a lot more friction and it's harder to move the blade, so keep it angled upward or diagonally, and then go ahead and make your cuts. When you're done using the saw, make sure if it has a sleeve that you put it back in there, and always make sure it's completely on the table, not off the edge. When you're using the power drills, you have the option of using a drill here, or if it makes more sense, you could use something like a screwdriver. Either way, the screw becomes part of that blood bubble because it could fly, it could poke us, it could cause us damage, and we wouldn't want to leave these on the floor at the end of class either. So be aware of that. Whether you're using the drill or a screwdriver, you want to make sure that the point fits inside the screw. So this is a Phillips head screw. It has the X. I need to use a drill bit that has an X or a screwdriver that has the X and fits inside. When we are placing it inside the drill, at least our drill bit, you need to make sure that the lock is on. Right now, I cannot press this trigger without having it move, but if I slide this button over, now my drill is working. So I'm going to put it back in lock. To put our drill bit in, we would unscrew this or loosen this up, insert the drill bit in, and then tighten it back up. Now, when we're using this, it's fairly easy because it's easy to see if it's tilted or pointed, but when we're using larger drill bits, like this, we need to make sure that they are in nice and straight, and they shouldn't be at an angle such as this. If you are pre-drilling a hole and you're putting two pieces together, you would want to use a drill bit like this. This drill bit should be just about the same size as the screw that you're planning on using. So this drill bit would be too large for this one. This would create a hole that would just allow the screw to go in and out. When I'm ready to use this, I need to think about my blood bubble. My blood bubble is anywhere in front of this, but also this is a rotating piece, so my hair or long sleeves shirts or necklace might get caught in there. So I would suggest taking off any baggy clothing, but also if you have longer hair or bracelets, then get them out of the way. When you're drilling, we do not have this in front of other body parts. We keep it right in front of our own body, and we are only using this when we are ready to use it. We shouldn't be holding it up or anything like that. When we're ready to start drilling, this is the length of the hole that we would make, so we would need to make sure that we are not going to go into the wood too deep. And if we are going to drill into the wood, then we need to make sure that the space beneath it is cleared. So I wouldn't drill right here on the table because it would enter the table, but I could drill off of the table. This is another time the vice grip would come in handy. When we're using the drill, we need to make sure that our hole is going straight down, or if you have another plan, it could go sideways. Either way, you need to have an idea what direction you want the hole to go in. Power drills are very powerful, so you need to be very controlled with your body. When you press it, when you start to press it, you cannot have a loose grip on it. You need to have it nice and secure. Your body should also be above the drill. So me being over here is not a powerful body position, but me being here is a good powerful body position. When I'm ready to start, I'm going to gently pull the trigger first, and then I'm going to increase the speed that the drill goes by pressing my finger a little bit more. So I'm ready to start. I start off gentle, and now I press it a little faster. Notice that I didn't let my hand wobble like that. We need to hold it very secure. When it's time for me to take the drill out, I'm still in control. I don't change my body position or anything. I just hold it nice and steady. When I'm done using it, I would lock it back up again, so it cannot. Okay, when we're ready to use our screw, we need, when we're ready to use our screw, we need to make sure that the drill bit fits inside the screw head. And then again, we need to have good body position so that our body's over it, we're lined up, and we start off nice and slow. So I take the lock off, it's in the wrong direction, nice and slow. And when the drill has, when the screw has bitten into the wood, we can take away our hand so we're not in that blood bubble. And again, nice and slow. Now, you don't want to hear that sound, so I'll give you an example of something. That's the sound of the drill bit skipping. That means that the drill bit is not secure inside the screw, and you won't be able to get the screw to work well. So you need to make sure you don't hear that sound. And the easiest way to do that is to make sure that you're using your own body weight to help power. And then when you're ready, just make sure you take your body part away, all body parts away, and put it on lock again. Now we're going to talk about the hot glue gun. When we're using the hot glue gun, this seems to be a tool that people are injuring themselves with the most recently. And I think part of the reason is because you guys are used to using glue in class, but this is hot glue, so you need to be careful and not treat it like you would with Elmer's glue. When you're using hot glue, the blood bubble is not only the tip of the glue gun, but it's also the glue that comes out. So even when this glue has landed onto the surface, this is now part of our blood bubble, which means we should not be touching that. When we're using the hot glue gun, we need to plan where we're going to put the hot glue, and then kind of like the drill, we press the trigger and glue will come out. So I'll put some glue on the tip here because I have a plan of making an L or a V with these two popsicle sticks. So when I'm putting the hot glue gun, I'm going to pull the trigger. Hot glue is now coming out. I'm going to push the tip down so that I don't have all these strands of glue. Even if I do have strands of glue, I'm going to leave it because it's hot. It's part of our blood bubble. I'm going to put the two pieces of wood together. And again, I'm not going to touch any glue that I see here because that's part of the blood bubble. If something is bothering you and you want to get it out of the way, or the glue went to the wrong spot, I would suggest using another tool to help you plan where you want that glue to go, or to help you fix it. But don't use your fingers because that's part of the blood bubble that will cause damage. If you're wondering if it's hot or not, you can blow on it a little bit and that will help cool it down, and then it should be ready to go. My suggestion would be not to touch it until you are certain that it's cool down, and if you're not sure when it's cooled down, then you can check in with your teachers. In general, it takes about 20 to 30 seconds before it's not going to burn you.